Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am, Lord. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. Oh God, you're altogether lovely, altogether worthy. Just putting myself in that spiritual man. These gospels, man, they really do it. But real quick, I want to discuss why you should never wrestle with your thoughts. And this is a continuation of Be Still. It's like, you know, I want to keep spinning on Be Still because there's so much that's coming to me. I'm just being inspired from Be Still. Psalms 46, verse 10, also in Chronicles, be still and see the salvation of God. There's just so much that I'm just feeling inspired by that. So I just kind of like want to stay on that theme. But what's been revealed to me in my research, actually, I've been sitting here just researching all day. Like I took a day out of the office today, so I've just been like researching nonstop. And I came across a spider, a particular spider. It's called a cribellate spider. Cribellate, cribellate spider. So I've been looking at the cribellate spider, and what I found interesting, right? The correlation, and I got my notes here. I take my notes, and I like to cook. You know, I like to cook my food, and you know, so the scripture says we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high and low places. And looking at, I got a moral. I got some kind of a lesson from the cribellate spider. The way they intricately put their webs together to ensnare the insect is when the insect comes in contact with the web of the cribellate spider, the more the insect tries to detangle itself, the more it reinforces the web and strengthens the instrument of its capture. So in lay simple terms, the more the insect tries to detangle itself, the more it becomes tangled. I'll say that again. The cribellate spider, the way they design their web, they intricately ensnare the insect that is the unsuspecting insect, is that the more the insect tries to detangle from the web reinforces its strength and actually tangles the unsuspecting victim, hence insect, more. And I thought that was interesting because when we understand how energy, how frequency, how the mind, how, you know, the spiritual wickedness in high and low places that we're actually wrestling and warring against. When we understand how it acts, the mechanisms, the science behind it, we come across what's called a feedback loop. And a feedback loop is where, I'll give you an example. If you broke up with a girl, you call her. No, you miss her first. So you say, okay, I'm going to call her. More than often, they ignore you, right? Especially if they're the one that left you. They ignore your call. So you miss her, you call her, right? She ignores your call. The more she ignores your call, the more you're going to miss her. The more you're going to miss her, the more you're going to call her. The more you call her, the more she ignores you, the more you miss her. The more you miss her, the more you call her. The more you call her, the more she ignores you, reinforces you missing her. Therefore, you call her. So the more you miss her, you call her. The more you call her, you miss her. The more you miss her, you call. And this is what's called a feedback loop. You're actually reinforcing, by calling, you're reinforcing the feelings of missing that person. So the idea, the distorted, torted psyche is, I miss her, I got to call her to satisfy this feeling of missing her. That's the distorted psyche, right? But what actually, in actuality, which is outside of the distorted psyche, this is objective reality as opposed to subjective reality. Objective reality is the way this web that you're in works, which is the feedback loop. Let's call the feedback loop the Cripple web, like the spider's web. The way the feedback loop web works is objectively, outside of your subjective distorted thinking, it's okay. You're going to call her, you're going to miss her, and therefore you call her. The more you call her, the more I'm going to make you miss her. Now I'm personifying the feedback loop. I'm personifying this objective reality, how objective science work. I'm going to personify it and give it a voice. The more he calls her, the more I'm going to make him miss her. The more I'm going to make him miss her, the more he's going to call her. The more he continues to call her, the more I'm going to reinforce his missing her. The more I reinforce his missing her, the more he's going to continue to call her. The more he continues to call her, the more I'm going to continue to reinforce him missing her. And the cycle goes on, and you're stuck in the Cripple's web. Or as I would say for you and I, this objective reality, which is called a feedback loop. Folks, keeping that in mind, the more we wrestle with our own internal struggles, what we are actually doing, keep the feedback loop in mind, is attracting more of what we're trying to get rid of out of our minds into our minds. Oh, this is some heavy stuff. The more, if you are going through a financial crisis, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to worry. You're going to fret. You're going to get nervous. You're going to get shaky, spooked. The more you get nervous, the more you fret, the more you spook, the more you become agitated, you're going to emanate that out of your field, and you're going to attract more of the same. Because this is how the science, the mechanisms, the moving parts of matter, energy, frequency, this is how it works. So the more you don't want something, the more you think, I don't want this, the more you're going to actually materialize it or bring it or create the environment, circumstances, or events that's going to allow it to show up at your doorstep. So the more you think, yo, I don't want this, I don't want this, man, I really hope, man, I really hope this doesn't happen. The more you start, the more you contemplate like that, the more you reinforce the actuality, the objective reality for it to materialize and show up at your front door. Again, keep in mind the Cripple spider's web. The more the insect tries to detangle itself, the more it becomes tangled. The more it tries to weaken the wovenness of the web, the more it reinforces and strengthens the wovenness of the web. The more you call her, the more you miss her. The more you miss her, the more you're going to call her. So the more you call her, the more you say, I don't want this, I don't want this, the more you're going to get. You guys see where I'm going with this? So it is pointless and futile to try to wrestle with your own internal thoughts. Don't wrestle with your thoughts. Because the more you wrestle with your thoughts, the more you say, I don't want this, or I don't want this to happen, you're actually reinforcing remember, field of potentialities, field of possibilities, field of probabilities. The more you say, I don't want this, the more you are reinforcing in your subconscious to give me this. Because that's how it works. The more you say, I don't want this to happen, you are connecting, you are syncing, you are Wi-Fiing to your RAS, through your RAS, to your sub, to give me this. So rather than saying, I don't want this to happen, or rather than frantically and fanatically and you know, in a very chaotic way, worry about what you don't want, do the opposite. Because saying I don't want this, or wrestling to get this thought, I have to get this thought out, I have to get this thought out, the more you do that, you're actually reinforcing that thought. You're strengthening that thought. Whatever the worry is, the more you focus on getting rid of the worry, the more you reinforce the worry. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to put the fire out by throwing gasoline on it. Well, gasoline is a liquid, but it's not going to put the fire out. So the answer to this could be still. Right? There are people who are suffering from psychological illnesses, right? The self-talk. When people say they hear voices in their head, they're not crazy. It's called self-talk. Right? We all have voices in our head. We all do, without exception. You're crazy if you start having audible conversations with yourself, then there's a problem. But we all have that voice in the back of our head. It's called self-talk, a gramophone, whatever you want to call it. You know, we all have that to some, you know. So the important thing is to take the Psalm 46:10 and really understand what be still means to accept what you cannot change and allow what to be. It's the art of accepting and allowing. True power, I'm going to say this very slowly. True power is not in chasing, is not in fighting, struggling, you know, chaotically, frantically, just, you know, impatiently pursuing. True power lies in allowing things to draw near to you. Power is allowing things to come to you. It's not in you chasing and going crazy to get things. It's rather you allowing, sitting back, and let things be drawn to you. Accepting and allowing. That is the definition of being still. That is another layer of being still. Surrendering, yielding, relinquishing from your efforts, worries, cares, concerns, stressors, etc., and allowing the universal design to unfold and bring the desire to you. So rather than wrestling with the thought, because the more you wrestle with the thought, the more you empower it. Because remember, what you think on, you empower. What you focus on, you expand. Whatever you concentrate on, you give life to. You expand, you empower. It's the observer effect. The watcher affects the reality. It's part of quantum mechanics. The observer affects that which is being observed. The observer influences the situation being observed. And the greater, the more intense the observation, the more intense the watching, the greater the transmutation, the change, the modification, or the alteration. I'm going to leave you with this, an illustration of how this works, the watcher effect. If I go to my car right now and I have my air pressure measurement tool or whatever, and I go to measure the amount of air that's in my tire, it is, for all intents and purpose, it is impossible to do so without releasing a smidgen, a small amount of air that is originally in the tire. So if I want to measure the amount of tire pressure, my tire pressure, I'm going to release some of the air that's already in that tire. There's no way for me to measure this air without releasing a small amount. So let's say I release a very minuscule, meaningless amount of air out of the pressure. The air that was already in the atmosphere of that tire has changed. The pressure has changed. So what I'm saying is me measuring it would be equivalent of what's called observation effect. By observing how much air is in my tire, I released a small amount of that air. So the air that was originally in that tire has been reduced proportionately with the amount that I released. Inadvertently, because I didn't intentionally do it, but that's just the very fact of how the observer effect works. You cannot observe, in this case, measure the air in the tire without releasing some of that air and therefore changing the original state and or pressure of the tire previous or prior to me observing, observing / measuring that tire pressure. And that's just a rough, basic, mundane explanation of how kind of sort of it works. So rather than wrestling and fighting to get that thought out of your head, do like you're watching a TV. Just take up the remote and change the channel. Don't try to wrestle with the channel. Just change it. I don't feel like watching this. This is why I never get cyberbullying. I never get it. Like, turn off your computer. And I'm not saying that to be insensitive. But what I am saying is you have a modem of control with your mind, rather than wrestling with the thought, because you're only going to empower it the more you wrestle. The more you give attention to it, the more it gets stronger. The stronger it gets, the more attention you're going to give to it. The more attention you're going to give to it, the stronger it's going to get. The stronger it gets, the more and you're in the feedback loop. You're in a self-sustaining feedback loop. Self-deprecating, self-sustaining feedback loop. So rather than be stuck in that loop, change the channel of your mind. Till next time, y'all know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be cooking these books, listening to some good gospel music, and sharing info with y'all. Peace. I give myself away so you can use me. I give myself away. I give myself away so you can. Come on, let him know. I give myself away. I give myself away so you can use me. I give myself away.